All right. Welcome everybody to the Old Colony MPO meeting today. We're on the first agenda, which is called order accessibility statement. Charlie, you want me to read the accessibility statement? You want to?
I'll read it. It's okay.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Sure. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. If you'd like these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833. The notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is included on this meeting's agenda and is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website at oldcolonyplanning.org. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 for more information. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. We will now, actually, I think we need, so I think we just should move into the roll. Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Oh, you're muted, Charlie.
My apologies. Steve Wolfel, MassDOT.
Steve Wolf will represent Secretary and CEO of MassDOT, Gina Fiandaca.
Pam Hasner, MassDOT.
Hasner representing Highway Administrator Jonathan Gulliver.
Kamaya Parkin, Brockton.
Maya Parkin, present, representing Mayor Sullivan in the city of Brockton.
Great, thank you. Lee Hartman, Plymouth.
Lee Hartman, Town of Plymouth.
Meredith Anderson, West Bridgewater.
West Bridgewater, Mary Anderson, I'm here.
Dan Salvucci, Town of Whitman.
Dan Salvucci, present, Town of Whitman.
Michael Lambert, Brockton Area Transit.
I am here along with Glenn Guyler.
Thank you. And Valerie Massard, President of Old Colony Planning Council.
Good morning, President, Town of Kingston.
Great, thank you. Chair, we do have a quorum present.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. You want to move to the next agenda, which is public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the MPO today? All right, seeing none, we'll move to agenda item 3, which are the meeting minutes for February 21st. Can I get a motion and a second to approve those minutes?
I'll motion Dan Salvucci, Whitman.
Second, Mary Anderson, West Bridgewater.
Any changes, comments on the minutes? Seeing none, Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Steve Wolfel,
Yes.
Pam Hasner,
Yes.
Kamaya Parkin,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Mary Anderson,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Michael Lambert,
Yes.
Valerie Massard.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Charlie. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda 4, which is the BAT update. So Michael, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. All is going well at that. We are eagerly awaiting the release of the Commonwealth's capital investment plan, which this august body will be reviewing in the next month or two. In the meantime, we're moving forward on our longer term capital plans, which include diesel bus procurement, electric bus procurement, and electric infrastructure installation. So we're pleased to report that is all moving forward. As we reported before, we soft launched our Rockland microtransit service in December. That is still in soft launch phase, but by February we had doubled ridership from December, and we're on pace to see another nice increase in March. So that is going very well. This is a pilot program for BAT and one of 4 or 5 microtransit systems in the Commonwealth. So we'll learn from this, and then we can tweak or replicate it in other locations. That is all I have.
Thank you, Michael. Hey, Michael, just an update for you while I have you. We do have a new manager of transit planning. I'm not sure if you had heard who it was.
I did hear who it was.
He started about a week ago. Jonathan Church, who a lot of you probably know from Boston MPO and Central Mass and WRTA. So I just wanted to make sure you knew Michael. All right.
That's
Any
great
questions?
news. Great news.
Any questions for Michael? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Michael. We'll move on to agenda item 5, which I believe is a tip amendment, correct? Or an adjustment, Charlie? and I believe this is Bill, correct?
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. So today, today we're presenting a draft amendment to the federal fiscal year 2023 to 2027 transportation improvement program. This is necessary as two projects programmed in federal fiscal year 2023 this year have seen substantial cost increases. So as such, it is required that we amend the tip to accommodate these cost increases. So Sean, if you want to go to the next page. So this page just kind of breaks down what these changes are to accommodate these cost increases. So first and foremost, under federal fiscal year 2023, you see two projects there that are programmed that have where the cost has increased. The Stoughton intersection improvements and related work on Central Street, Canton Street, Tosca Drive, that the cost on that has increased to $5,242,000 and change. So that's a cost increase of just about $1 million. And then the other project in 2023, which is an advanced construction project in corridor improvements on Route 138, the total cost increase on that has increased to about 17.4 million, and that's a very large cost increase. So what we are proposing to do is accommodate the entire cost increase for the Canton Street at Central Canton Street and Tosca Drive and Stoughton. That's obviously the total cost for that is obviously still under the regional target. So we would program that in its entirety this year. And then keeping Stoughton advanced constructed, just adjusting how that is split out. So in federal fiscal year 2023, changing the phase one amount to $8,411,033. That's a slight decrease from what it was. And then then down at the bottom of your page, you can see carrying the remainder of that project in phase two in 2024. So the phase two cost would go up to $8,963,000 and change. There is room, obviously, we wouldn't be doing it otherwise. So under the target in 2024 to accommodate this cost increase. So we are asking the MPO to consider releasing this to a public review and comment period today. And then we would bring it back for potential endorsement a month from now, incorporating comments that we receive. So I would humbly ask that the MPO consider releasing this to public review.
All right, can I have a motion a second to release amendment 2.0 for public comment, then I'll open it to questions.
I'll make that motion, Dan from Whitman.
I'll second it, Mary from West Bridgewater.
All right, anyone have any questions for Bill?
Yes, I do. Bill, is this
Good.
cost increase due to material costs? And labor costs?
I don't have a breakdown on what the what it is, but yeah, I think it's a combination of material costs, labor costs, and just general inflation.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? All right, seeing none, Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Steve Vogel,
Yes.
Pam Hasner,
yes,
Kamaya Parkin,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Mary Anderson,
Yes,
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
and Valerie Massard.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right, thank you, Bill. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is development of the federal fiscal year 2024 to 2028 tip. And there's a review of scenarios. So Bill, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yep, more tip fund. So this is the development of 24 to 2028 tip, and I plan to present three three potential scenarios that we drafted for review and consideration today, and hopefully determination of a preferred set of a project, a preferred scenario, if you will. So without further ado, Sean, if I can go to the next page.
Bill, just to make sure we're not voting today, right? This is just to kind of settle on something and then people have the month to look at it, then we'll vote next month, correct?
I was hoping that we would determine, I mean, it's up to this board, obviously. I was hoping that we reach a preferred set of alternatives today. I'm sorry, a preferred alternative set of projects, but if not, could.
No, I was just trying to figure
Oh.
out if you actually need a vote today, because I'm not, do we have the
Yes.
actual, you do want one, Charlie? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we need a vote today because what we will do over the next month is then craft the entire tip document and have that ready for the MPO to review the entire document in April to release to a public review and comment period.
All right, so we want to vote on the preferred option today. Okay, just wanted to clarify. For
Okay.
everyone. All right.
Thank you, Charlie. So on your screen is tip scenario 1. So I'll preface this by about a month or so ago, we had tip readiness days where we went through the existing 23-27 tip and then reviewed potential projects for 2028. Everything that was in the existing tip generally looked pretty good where they were. There were 2 projects that recommended action on moving. So one of them was the Hanson project, the corridor improvements on Route 27, it's currently programmed for advanced construction beginning in 2026 and then carrying over into 2027. The consensus of tip readiness day was to push that back to 2027 and 2028 as there are significant concerns about the readiness of that project for 2026. And then the other one was the project in Brockton, intersection improvements at Crescent Street, Route 27, at Massasoit Boulevard and Quincy Street, which was programmed for 2027. The consensus of tip readiness day was to remove that from programming at this time, as there has been no active project design with that project. It's been 25% have been around for quite a while, then they would have to be redone, and there's significant right-of-way issues that have to be resolved for that project. So the recommendation at tip readiness day was for the time being, remove that project. So on your screen, scenario 1, if you will. So kind of keeps we keep 2023 to 2027 as is, keeping the Hanson Brockton project where they are, and just kind of taking 2028 and programming projects there. So if you did that, we would have room in 2028 to program 2 projects. One is in Abington, the intersection improvements, Route 139 at Chestnut Street, and in Old Randolph Street, and then in Route 139 in Hanover, which was Hanover Street at Main Street and Silver Street. So obviously the drawback with this scenario is this ignores the recommendations from tip readiness day and keeping those the Hanson project and Brockton project as is. And
Working on that.
I'm sorry. And Sean, if you want to just scroll down a little bit, just so you can see the bottom of this page. So you can see the into table 2 on your page. So in 2028, and the statewide projects, 3 projects have been picked up in Abington, Route 18 at Route 123, the bridge replacement in Kingston, Smith's Lane over Route 3, and Stoughton, Canton Street at Canton Street and School Street and Summer Street. So those 3 projects are being added in 2028 on the statewide tip, and so that's remaining consistent through all 3 scenarios. So that is scenario 1. If you want to go to the next page. So scenario 2 does incorporate the consensus advice from tip readiness day. So it moves Hanson to 2027 and removes the Route 27 at Quincy Street, Massasoit project. In doing so, since there is available target in 2027, we're able to program Hanson in its entirety in 2027. And we would have remaining target space in 2027 to program the Abington projects, the Route 139 at Chestnut Street project. This project, so in tip readiness day, this was recommended for 2028. I've spoken to the town and the project designer. I asked them, would this project be feasible for 2027 if we went and programmed in 2027? They feel strongly they expect 25% designs to be submitted to MassDOT this year, by the end of this year, and that would put it in good shape for programming and for advertisement in 2027 has stayed on track. So we felt pretty good putting that in 2027. So scenario 2 would take the Hanson project, push it back 1 year to 2027, take it out of advanced construction. So program it in its entirety in that year, add the Abington project to 2027, and then keep Hanover in 2028. And then in doing so, we would also have room to add a Brockton project in 2028, that being Belmont Street at Pearl Street. This is a high priority intersection for the city. It's a high crash location, and we believe this would be a good replacement, if you will. So if we took the Route 27 at Massasoit Boulevard project off the tip for the time being, this would be a pretty good replacement. And so that's scenario 2. And then if you want to just go on to the next one, John. So this is scenario 3. So scenario 3, very similar to scenario 2. It does in taking the Brockton Route 27 at Massasoit project out and delaying Hanson to 2027. The difference being here, we keep Hanson advanced constructed, so that would be advanced constructed 2027 and 2028. The reason why you would do this, so our understanding is right now Hanson qualifies for advanced construction, and it would be grandfathered to remain eligible for advanced construction. But if we took it out of advanced construction, just program it entirely in 1 year, we wouldn't be able to go back and put it back to advanced construction unless the project cost changed and the project cost exceeded the regional target. Then at that point we'd be able to go back to advanced construction. So this scenario kind of just acknowledges that if folks were uncomfortable taking it out of advanced construction, then we could keep it advanced constructed 27, 2028. We'd still be able to program Abington in 2027, but then in 2028, we would just have available target for the Hanover project. So we would not, under the scenario, we wouldn't have enough room in 2028 to program Belmont Street at Pearl Street. So these are the 3 scenarios, at least on the highway side, that we've proposed. So we're looking for a vote on a preferred alternative today.
So Bill,
Mhm.
is there a preferred is there a preferred option from you all at staff in terms of one?
Yes, so from staff point of view, our preferred alternative internally is scenario 2. It keeps the same amount of projects for Brockton. There's that trade-off from the Route 27 at Massasoit Boulevard project, and then adding in another Brockton project to more or less replace it. And yeah, we do, moving that, we do feel good about moving up that project, that Abington project to 2027 after talking to the town and the project designer. So yeah, scenario 2 would be our preferred alternative internally.
So Bill, I have one question before I open up to more questions.
Yep.
I know at Readiness Days, Brockton Route 123 had some questions. I don't know if you know, or if this, I know the city's on, has there been any updates since Readiness Days on that project?
I have not heard any updates. I know that, yeah, I know that there were some questions, but it did seem feasible at the time.
If I could weigh in,
Good, Mary.
every year, Charlie and myself, we meet with the mayor, DPW, planning, engineering, et cetera, and we actually presented this to the mayor's office and went over many of the other projects. So, again, we tee it up so we're transparent and knowing the direction, but I have not heard back on any of these items.
All right. The other members, Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just add that the Belmont of Pearl, that's a state highway location, and MassDOT does have a designer on board designing that project. And they're looking to have a kickoff meeting in the near term. I don't know if Pam, you have any comments about the Readiness Days? As I recall from Readiness Days, they were okay with 2028 for this project.
Yes, actually, I did have a comment or two, if I may.
Sure, go ahead, Pam.
As far as the Brockton 27 Massasoit, I just wanted to mention again that we do support that project. It's a municipal project. The 25% design was submitted in 2015. I think, as Bill mentioned, there are a lot of right-of-way issues, and because the design is 8 years old at this point, we've had a lot of changes in our SOPs and standards. So it would have to basically go back to the drawing board. We are open to meet with the city, and I know Old Colony reaches out to the city very regularly about this and other projects. So, that was really the reason that we had recommended, DOT recommended pushing the project out. And then when the city is ready to reinvigorate it, we're open to meeting. As far as the Pearl and 123, yes, that was a recommendation for 2028. Basically, we recommended the newer projects, which that is for 2028, just because they are just starting. We do have a designer on board. We do have survey complete, and we will be setting up a meeting with Old Colony and the city very soon. I have been talking to the project manager about that. And I do have a suggestion as far as scenario 3, I think it would be, and I would look to planning and the rest of the MPO for input. But I noticed and I'm looking, I have 2 screens. I'm looking at 2027 and 2028, and in 2027, there is $6.4 million available. And in 2028, there's $3.8 million available. And I noticed that the Hanson corridor improvement is evenly split for 27 and 28 at 5.7 and change. And I was wondering if some of one year or the other. I mean, there's more in 2027. So if, let's say, $3 million of Hanson DAC went from 27 to 28, that Brockton could be, the Pearl Street could be programmed in 2027, or vice versa. If some of the 2028 AC money went to 27, then Brockton could fit in 28. It's a question and a suggestion if possible. It is also, I just one more thing, the Brockton 123 Pearl Street. It is a high priority for us. It also has a history of high crash, and especially more recently, it was a top 200, and there has been municipal and legislative interest in making improvements there. Thank you.
I muted myself. Lee?
So I'd first, Charlie, do you want to answer those questions first?
The question being a staff preference.
No, the comments Pam made about scenario 3 and the reallocation. I don't know if that's something you wanted to mention first.
Yeah, I think, we can definitely look at trying to accommodate Belmont at Pearl in 28 or 27 by moving the Hanson numbers around a little bit, but I think the net number of projects would be similar to scenario 2. It's just how they're actually programmed,
Okay.
if I'm not
So-
mistaken. And the difference being Hanson wouldn't be advanced constructed in scenario 2 versus scenario 3.
So I'll be prepared when you're ready to accept the motion to move scenario 2 as recommended. And it just, again, I think we've known about the Massasoit intersection for a long time. We know it's important. We know it's a priority, not just for Brockton. For somebody from Plymouth who has to go to OCPC, I can tell you it's a priority. But again, based on what staff said, I don't think that makes sense to keep it on the tip. And I would point out that every year we move projects up and down. So if progress is made on that, we can always add it back into the tip as it moves forward. So again, when you're ready, I would like to recommend scenario 2 as recommended by staff.
All right, so Al DiGirolamo from Senator Brady's office. I might not have done that justice, Al, but go ahead.
It was closer than I normally get.
No, I tried hard.
The senator has been really pushing for that Massasoit intersection for many, many years. I'm sure you're aware. I'm not questioning your decision. I just, what needs to be done there to get this moving?
So I think that's probably a question for Mary, maybe you or Charlie. I mean, as you say, Al, this has been on the radar for a long time. It's kind of moved around a lot. And, I think as Pam said, this project's been around a long time and a lot of regulations and other stuff have changed while it's gone. So now, I guess there needs to be a renewed focus on it to get it actually advanced again. Charlie, Mary, Pam.
I will let Charlie, go ahead, Charlie.
All right, go Charlie.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the history on the Massasoit project. So it was first initiated by Project Review Committee at MassDOT back in 2010. And the 25% design was submitted in May of 2015. Since that time, there has not been a design submission. And as Pam mentioned earlier, due to MassDOT SOPs on design criteria, the traffic data is outdated, and beyond a certain age, resubmission of the 25% would be required. And there was concern from the city at the time back in 2015, 2018-ish, about the cost to acquire the necessary right of way. At the time, it was the car dealer and the retail plaza on the opposite side of the Massasoit Boulevard. The city didn't think they had the financial capacity to acquire both properties. So there was a question about the design that was submitted in 2015, if that would indeed be the preferred alternative. So the city had been active looking for alternatives to acquire the private property acquisitions. And at that time, it was a determination by then Mayor Carpenter that they didn't have the fiscal capacity to do that. So it's been talked about. Fortunately, that the city has gone to that intersection and has made some improvements, paving, replaced some of the lights, worked on the timing and phasing of that intersection. So, to the city's credit, they've made short-term improvements at that location. So, but it is, as Pam had mentioned, and as Lee had mentioned, that should this project be reinvigorated, and a designer comes on board, the MPO is certainly willing to entertain bringing it back into funding. But we thought scenario 2 was a good balance of keeping a project in Brockton by bringing in the high crash Belmont at Pearl, and I know that's been a priority as well. So
that's also been huge for a number of our constituents. So the onus of the Massasoit intersection would basically be more on the city.
yes, that's it's a municipal jurisdiction project, and it would be the city of Brockton. It would be the lead designer, and then they would work with Massasoit Community College on design preference, as this would include Massasoit Boulevard going into the campus, and to see if there would be a chance that Massasoit would pick up any of the right-of-way acquisition at all. And I know OCPC has been talking in-house as well, as would the Economic Development Administration be a potential avenue for right-of-way acquisition and another way to fund this project. And I know staff has been working on some ideas for that as well. So
all
Al,
right,
does
thank
this
you
give
for
does this give you enough feedback, Al, to go back to the senator? Give a sense.
yes.
All right.
Yes, thank you for all the feedback. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Al.
right.
Valerie?
Thank you. I just wanted to say I'd spent quite a bit of time going over this the other day, and also support scenario 2. And they had answered all of my questions. So I just wanted to share that with the group.
All right. So I think, why don't I get a motion, Pam, before I call, I'll let Pam speak, and then I'm going to call for motion second. We can still do questions afterwards, but go ahead, Pam.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I guess the only difference between what I had suggested and scenario 2 is if we do what I suggested for 3, then Hanson would still be advanced constructed. So it really doesn't change the project advertising. It's just if Hanson would be AC'd over 2 years or funded in 1 year. So I really don't have a preference either way if the staff recommendation is scenario 2.
All right. Lee, do you want to make your motion?
I'll move to recommend that we move forward with a preferred option of scenario 2.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Dan Salvucci from Whitman.
All right. Any further questions? All right. Seeing none. Charlie, you want to read the roll, please?
Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Pam Hasner,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Kamaya Parkin,
I'll abstain.
Mary Anderson,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Val Massard.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bill. We'll move on now to, I believe, to agenda item 7, which is development of the federal fiscal year 2024 Unified Planning Work Program, which I believe is you, Charlie, right?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to go back and say that we have the some preliminary draft transit investments. If
Oh,
Administrator Lambert wanted to just say a few words about that. And Sean, if you could go back a couple of screens.
sorry, I didn't see that. All right, go ahead,
Yeah.
Michael.
Yeah, I mentioned just the highlights previously in terms of our electric bus purchase, which obviously every year or any year that we do have a bus procurement, that is the represents the majority of our capital plan. Although in this case, we have the interesting element of planning for and implementing the electric infrastructure needed as well. So that involves planning with National Grid, and with our own engineers and electricians, make that a reality. If you go back one slide there. Otherwise, the items that we are submitting for consideration are typical capital plan items that tries to set aside funding every year to do standard maintenance. So whether that's on our parking garage, at our operations and maintenance facility, or at our transit hub, we try and make sure that those no part of those elements holds back service or customer service. So we make sure that we have a regular upkeep and a maintenance program. So that's reflected here, whether it's investment in the building itself or the surrounding area. We've put a lot of money and effort into replacing the bricks around our transit hub recently, and we'll be working on replacing the ADA ramps there as well. So that's the general overview here.
All right, anyone have any questions for Michael? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, so now we are to agenda item 7, which is development of federal fiscal year 2024 tip. Thanks for catching that, Charlie, before. I will turn it over to you to talk about the UPWP.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this is a discussion and informational item for the MPO today, and we're seeking feedback and ideas from the board as well. So the staff is developing the 2024 Unified Planning Work Program, and this is the scope of work and budget for the transportation activities of the upcoming federal fiscal year. And as part of this process, we're looking at a universe of projects. Next slide, please. And this is a universe of projects that staff has developed. As you all know, the Unified Planning Work Program has multiple elements to it. Some of it's recurring tasks, such as development of the Transportation Improvement Program, operation of our management systems, which include congestion management process, pavement management. It also includes our regular tasks of local highway technical assistance and our data acquisition and drone reconnaissance program. But aside from that, we have a section in the UPWP for discretionary projects where we will do special studies, if you will, and this is where this universe of projects comes into play. And what the staff did last year was Go-Chung Lee and Ray Garino, they had done a high priority quarter screening assessments project, and what that was to look at the state numbered route segments and principal arterials throughout the region in terms of safety, congestion, and mobility, livability, equity, et cetera, and come up with a composite ranking score. And on this list, that's the far right-hand column, and that's on a scale of 0 to 100. So what we did here was populate the list of the universe of projects along with the projects from the high priority quarter screening assessment. And what you can see on your screen here is a grouping of projects. It's sorted alphabetically by community. So as you're going through the list, it starts with Avon, and then you have a grouping of 3 Bridgewater projects, and then it's a grouping of Brockton projects, and then some in East Bridgewater, Kingston, Pembroke. Next slide, please. And then rounding out Plymouth, Stoughton, Whitman, and then a regional section. I would note that the second from the bottom is the road safety audits at multiple locations. We did that in 2 successive UPWPs. So we're not honing in on that as a recommendation from the staff level, nor are we recommending it like a major bottleneck study. Could you go back one slide, please? So going back to the overall list is, some of the staff insights to this list were, okay, what are some things that are coming to the front burner? Well, Route 27 in Brockton and Stoughton in Whitman seems to be flagged high in the high priority screening assessment. Route 123 from downtown Brockton to Abington came up as a high priority. I do note that Ray Garino did a study in this very location about 2 or 3 years ago. And one of the other thoughts when we were looking at this list was, okay, where have we done planning studies in the last couple of years, and where are there projects that have been implemented in terms of infrastructure, such as Route 27 in Brockton from West Street to Main Street. That was a quarter project funded through the TIP. And that overlays here with a project that was identified in the high priority quarter screening assessment. So there's some commonalities in here. Another one would be Bridgewater 104 from Raynham Town Line to Central Square in Bridgewater. That was a location of a TIP project maybe 10, 15 years ago. OCPC did a major bottleneck study there. And then Home Depot, when they came in, they did some site improvements along the way. And then there was a MassWorks project at South Elm at 104. So as we're calling through this list, we're looking to see what would be feasible to perhaps pick up 2 or 3 of these studies to program in the next UPWP. And one of the quarter segments that comes up in 2 towns, one is the Route 38 corridor in Kingston, and then also Plymouth. So staff was really looking here at the number 14 Kingston Route 3 and vicinity transportation and land use study. There's a lot of ongoing development pressures along the Route 3A corridor in the town of Kingston with the commuter rail, with access to Route 3, housing developments in adjoining communities. So staff was looking at recommending that we do the Route 3A corridor study in Kingston. And perhaps another one would be to look at Oak Street in Brockton. We haven't studied that corridor in the past, and that ranked really high on the high priority screening assessment. And then perhaps looking at other ones, looking for suggestions or ideas. We're going to work a little bit offline. The PWP isn't in a stage that's ready to be released to a public review or anything to that end. So we're taking input from staff and the MPO. We'd like to bring this to our Joint Transportation Committee too, to garner some additional input. So that's a quick overview of our universe of projects, and we'd certainly be interested in any feedback that the MPO board has.
All right, does anyone have any feedback for Charlie?
So Lee Hartman, if I could.
Sure, go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, I just think the stuff you've outlined for Plymouth and Kingston hits the nail right on the head.
Yeah.
All right, others?
I agree with Lee. This is Val. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Pam?
Right. No, I agree as well. And one thing I was thinking about is when Old Colony does their studies, there's a lot of really good information that comes out of them. I really appreciate that. But I think it's also important if some of the suggestions are looked at for implementation as well, and then there's another way to look, for instance, with the development, then the studies can guide the municipalities when there is development on what to suggest to the developers. So, I just think it's just really important to have a viable product from the study as much as possible. So there is a lot of really good information that comes out of them. And 3A is a corridor that is in need of some attention.
Yeah, a little TLC.
All right, anyone else have any feedback?
I'll let it go.
All right, Charlotte, looks like you have picked some good some of the good projects to think about as you're putting UPWP. Everyone seems in kind of in line, so. All right. Charlie, anything more on the UPWP? Is that it?
That's it at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Charlie. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is an update on the long-range plan. That's agenda item 8. Bill?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just an update on where we stand with the development of this plan. So it's come along nicely. We initially we developed our goals and objectives in the beginning, also the planning scenarios. And since then, we've been moving on to developing some of the chapters, like the highway chapter, the transit chapter, the vulnerable roadway users chapter, or bike and ped, if you will. So it's coming along well. We've been working with other MPOs and RPAs in the state, along with MassDOT and UMass Donahue Institute on developing socioeconomic projections for the plan, and that is nearly complete. We are hosting a webinar tonight. We encourage everyone to attend, and the goal of this webinar is mainly to provide an overview of what the plan is, and provide the general public an opportunity to meet the planners who are developing this plan, and also voice their what their priorities are for the region. So after a brief overview of the plan, we intended to be kind of just open it up and allow people to just provide feedback. So we're looking forward to that. In the next slide, there is a well, actually, I should mention that our survey is still open. So if people haven't taken the survey yet, we certainly encourage them to take that. It's still open and will remain open. And then if you want to go to the next slide, on the next slide, there is a information for the webinar tonight on how to register for that and join that. And with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions.
All right, anyone have any questions for Bill? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to agenda item 9, which is administrative matters of the business, date and time of next meeting. Charlie, you want to go over this, or?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Yep.
So we have a couple informational items for you today. The first is an update on the Cape Cod Canal Bridges program. There are 2 virtual public information meetings coming up. The first being March 22nd at 6 p.m. and this is in regard to the Bourne Bridge, and then on March 29th, and that's for the Sagamore Bridge. These will be live virtual public information meetings, and you'll hear from the project proponents on status of where those projects are at in the planning and design stages. Next slide. And that actually is a flyer, and MassDOT does a really nice job on posting public informations, and you see it in the lower right hand corner where it says attend, and it's a whole host of opportunities to learn about not only this project but other projects as well. Next slide. And that's the flyer for the Sagamore Bridge on March 29th. Next slide. And there's an opportunity on March 30th at 6 p.m. to attend a virtual design public hearing. And actually, could you go to the next slide? And this is actually the flyer, and it's actually the same webpage where you go to register for the event. So this is for 3 bridges along the Route 3 corridor. It's East Street in Duxbury over Route 3, River Street over Plymouth Plantation Highway, and then Jordan Road over Route 3 in Plymouth. So March 30th, 6 p.m. to learn more about these projects and provide public comment. Next slide. It'd be remiss to say if we didn't do a promo for a another survey that we have out. Go Chung and Ray are currently conducting the Route 18 corridor studies in the communities of Bridgewater and East Bridgewater. And this is information on a public survey that we're asking stakeholders to take. Next slide. And on May 2nd and 3rd, MassDOT is having the annual Transportation Innovation Conference at the DCU Center in Worcester. And registration is open now. And this is always a good opportunity to meet colleagues and to hear about the latest and greatest innovation techniques.
And
Next
just on
slide.
that, Charlie, we should be, for everyone, the program we're hoping to have done this week. We got over probably about 140 submittals for abstract. So there was a lot. So we're getting close.
Thank you. Next slide. And this is the last information items. So the Division of Ecological Restoration has their annual culvert replacement grant program, now accepting applications, and typical project awards are up to $400,000. And award project applications are due at the end of this month. On the next slide, March 31st. And for more information, there's it's on DER's website and also on Combis. Next slide. And here we have a list of upcoming meetings for the MPO. We're asking the board to save the dates of April 18th, May 16th, June 20th, and July 18th for meetings of the Old Colony MPO. And that
All right.
concludes our admin update.
Anyone have any questions for Charlie? I would just underscore all the meetings that are up right now. You all know this is the busy season with TIP, UPWP, and obviously the long range plan this year. So try to make sure you can attend all these so we have a quorum so we can do all the work we need to get done. So, all right, we'll move on to the last agenda item, which I believe is just adjournment. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn. Dan Sabucci Whitman.
I'll second it. Mary Anderson, West Bridgewater.
All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 All right, thank you, everybody. We got through a
Thank
lot.
you.
We have our
Thank-
busy season coming up, so everyone stay safe. Hope I'll see you in Worcester, but I'll see you next month likely. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.